Special brew, special bread, special bra.
Because, I mean, look at this. Imagine this is my mind and my mindset, okay? Yeah, I know that there are horses here, and I know that they respond to certain actions, and I know the ground is underneath me because I can see it, sort of. And then I know that there are special places that I could go and that I could discover and rediscover. But at the same time, what is all this? This world looks strange and unusual to me, and I can only use my imagination to fill in the gaps. You know? What is it that this world wants from me? Why is it presenting itself so strangely? And these are the things that kind of are almost parallel to my real life situation. It's like I've been updated.
Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode on the JFS. And today we're going to talk about personal edgy stuff, as alluded to by the disclaimer at the start and the clip you just watched. I know I said I wouldn't really be doing as much as I imagined, and yes, there's a couple of ideas that I'm not going to do because they're too personal, but I decided this one I'm comfortable with. I don't know if it's... Oh, hello. I don't know if it's beneficial as such, but heck, mental health and such should probably be talked about a bit more. And so that's the idea. And I don't mean to make, episodes all about me and whatever. I mean, if you're not interested, don't pay attention. Simple as that. But I did want to share my experience with the elusive mental condition they call psychosis. So the clip that you just watched was recorded after I came out of hospital in 2013, and I just found it randomly the other day, and it's from season 2 of JFS, JSF at the time, but whatever. And I thought I'd share it. I'll talk more at the end about why I shared that, but I just thought it was very interesting, especially considering I've been planning this episode for a while. Not planning, but thinking about it and such. As you can see, today we're doing pickles, because we got pickles. I was going to do glowstone. I thought that would definitely take enough time to discuss this topic to the degree I want to. We'll see what happens. Might end up having a wander. Might end up running out of these things. So, yeah, we'll see. So, I mean, there is stigma about mental illness still. People don't like to talk about it, but I have noticed, we've all noticed a trend over the past maybe 15 years, if not longer, that it's getting more, people are more encouraged to talk, especially about, I find, depression and anxiety are two conditions that, and yes, fully warranted, should be talked about and addressed. But conditions like psychosis, schizophrenia, OCD, they're like still shrouded in mystery, really, and kind of for good reason. Like the term psychotic gets thrown around, even in the media, in films and stuff, and misused quite a bit. Now, granted, somebody who's undergoing psychosis might indeed be violent with, no decent reason to feel that way. It could be just random violence or whatnot. But at the same time, it goes to show you how misunderstood the term is, that it's used, in situations where there's no mental illness and it's just somebody just getting a bit violent or something. But it really does defy understanding, even for psychiatrists who've, studied for years to try and understand such conditions. Even for the patient themselves. While they... Oh, somebody messed one up. Oh, I'm going to have to fix that. Never mind. I estimated that was going to happen once every 6 months. It's happened twice since I put them up. Even the patient themselves, even after recovery, will still be at a loss to understand what happened, why they acted certain ways. Some of it makes sense in and of itself. For instance, each person experiences very different symptoms and experiences, but there are common ones, like having a God complex, thinking that you're the next coming of Jesus or something. That can be common. So then, with bearing that in mind, you can kind of explain why maybe you went to a church and stood at the pulpit and started preaching, or something. I don't know. That's just an example. I didn't do that. In fact, I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, because it's so kind of personal, I can really only go through what I've experienced, and I don't know, will it help anybody or whatever, but it might, and it might make people think, oh, that's why he's such a weirdo, and steer clear of me, whatever. If you want to be that close-minded, that's your own business. But I have had 3 psychotic episodes, so I'm not sure of the definition of schizophrenic. I think that's more of a permanent kind of situation. So mine were just kind of acute episodes lasting... Oh, I need pistons. Lasting, a week or 2 or whatever. Longer, really, but all of my episodes were, believe it or not, cannabis-induced, which that baffled doctors the first time around. But I can say, they were like, there's no way it was just cannabis. You must have had something harder. But nope. It's happened 3 times now. It is confirmed. I am proof. I think this goes here to, and this. That looks about right. So yeah, take what you will from that, because it's currently, cannabis is the wonder drug now. Cures everything. Give the oil to your kids. They'll do great. Whatever. It's not for everyone. And yeah. So the first time it happened was in 97. I was 19 at the time. Went to Amsterdam for the summer with my girlfriend of the time. I'll spare you I mean, there was an awful lot of stuff that went down. And there's no need to tell the whole story, really. But it was pretty messed up all around. And, you know, my girlfriend was 17 at the time. She couldn't, or was she 18 maybe? She couldn't hold it together for me, you know. So we ended up having a massive argument, and we walked off from each other, and I was left to my own devices, wandering about, causing chaos everywhere I went. And finally, I saw a car by a BP petrol station. Probably do another one down here. And I thought it was a birthday present to me, and that it could drive itself. So I tried to get into it. And strangely enough, nobody came out to me immediately, but when I walked away, an attendant from the station came out to me, and there was an altercation. I did nothing. I remember quite distinctly I had my hands away from my sides, you know, very much kind of not doing anything, but he hit me to the ground. Police arrived. They put me in a cell, and they went through. I had like just tons of bits of paper and just rubbish in bags. And while I was in the cell, they went through all that, and somehow they found, I guess they found my dad's number. They found some piece of information, and he was on the phone then a while later. And yeah, I probably didn't explain very well what was going on, because I didn't really know myself what was happening. Just, you know, just the world had suddenly become a very fantastic place, and I was being given free cars and then beaten up for it, and, you know, that was my logic anyway at the time. So yeah, then I freaked out in the cell, so they had a doctor come in and stick a needle in my butt, and I woke up in a mental hospital in Amsterdam. My dad came over, and whatever, I was there for like maybe a week or so, and then we went back to Dublin to another mental institution, and, you know, I was medicated and so on. And the hospitals, mental hospitals, are really strange places, if you didn't know. But obviously they would be. But that was that, and then I was medicated for the following year. I didn't drop out of college, but I just went on hiatus or whatever. I said I might be back or something, and then finally I ended up getting a job on a building site, which really doesn't suit the type of person I am. But I was working there, and one day it was just lashing down rain, and I was we had to try and, you know, funnel all the water, and it was a pure mess. And I was like, this is it, I'm going back to Amsterdam, and if it all happens again, it all happens again. I don't care. I'm done with this. And yeah, so next day I went back to Amsterdam, and I unintentionally forgot my medication. I meant to bring it, but I didn't. And I went straight to a coffee shop and had a joint and wandered all night, and then the next day I got a hostel, and I eventually got bored, believe it or not, because I was on my own, and I didn't kick off and go nuts, but I was on my own with nothing much to do. So I rang one of the nurse, really nice nurse from the year before. I had her number, so I gave her a call, and they met me, and yeah. Then I came home, and I went back to college, and actually everything was fine. When I got back, I had, a meeting with the psychiatrists, and I said, look, I've stopped on the medication, and I feel fine. I'm going to go back to college. And they said, all right, best of luck. And that was the end of that for years. And everything was fine. And I did graduate the course, which funnily enough was in psychoanalysis, which I think the subject itself was very deep and heavy for me. And I think that it might have had some influence in terms of, where I was in my psyche, if you know what I mean. So there's that. But yeah, as I say, everything was fine then for years. And then in 2006, I was living in Wales, and I just finished studying film. And I was in a house share with a bunch of guys, and they would partake, and they had a dude that would come out and sell the weed, and the joint would be passed around, and I'd always go, I'll just have a taste, like literally just the teeniest amount that might affect me slightly, but the idea is just to see is it any good, and then one day it was especially good. It was so good that I forgot I was only having a taste, and it came back around, and I had another whopper drag off it, and yeah, the rest was another chaotic story of just. This was winter time. It was actually over Christmas, and I went home, and yeah, just all the things. But this time I wasn't hospitalized. I didn't get to that point. I think I kind of realized, I need, something happened here. That so I was at home for Christmas, and my dad sat me down, and he was just like, you're getting on a flight tomorrow back to Wales, you're going to work, you're going to be fine. Do you know what I mean? So I took on the responsibility. It was pretty tough. I was working in one of these call centers that give out numbers. I'm sure there's a name for that, but and I'd be talking to 300 people a day, in this state of kind of sometimes elation, sometimes confusion, and still trying to do a job and it not turn into a thing, I'd find myself thinking that it was a game I was playing with spirits and stuff from other realms, and they were trying to get information. Like, it wasn't just people calling because they needed the number to the local taxi place, so anyway, but yeah, I had some people around that were good and helped ground me and keep me or get me back to some semblance of sanity or whatever it is. I also self-medicated on booze a fair bit. Oh look, Killer claimed an entire village. Of course he did. Which is something that I still kind of struggle with today. I did mention that a while ago, I always got to have a couple of beers in the evening. But it was just that started that habit. Don't know why I'm reading those signs. I know exactly what they say. It's the same as the first one. Yeah, that was that. And then, as I mentioned, 2013 was the last one. I'm not sharing any details really about these. but especially not this one, because some people who might see this were actually around at the time and might remember some circumstances, and I don't really want to delve into details that is none of their fucking business. But you know, obviously friends know the details, and maybe if you are friendly with me one day we will talk about it one-on-one, but certainly not in a public YouTube video. But the story for that was I was doing a course again. It's funny that I mean, I had finished the film one, but all three of them are around doing things academically. But I was doing a course in kind of web design and business and stuff like that, and it was quite stressful. But one day, this guy wanted to borrow some tobacco from me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, work away." And then he was like, "Here, do you want some of the, you know?" And he had a little bit of weed, and I was like, "Ah, no, I'm fine." He goes, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "I'll go on then." Went home, smoked the whole lot, because that's just the type of person I am. Like, there's no way I can just put it aside until, you know, a nice social occasion. Oh no, must smoke it all immediately. And that wasn't kind of the one in Wales was really instant. It was like straight away I knew something was terribly wrong. Whereas this was, I didn't know straight away. What are we saying here? Oh, even skipper, yeah. But I don't know if they're too keen on it, actually. I'm sure they'll do something nice, maybe. But yeah, so the course was pretty stressful. There was also a fair bit of emotional turmoil at the time. And this time I did end up in hospital. In spite of having a really good, as they say, support network. I was aware something was amiss. My friends were aware, but nothing could really be done for me. Like, you know, there were plenty of phone calls made and whatever else, but you know, if you call people, there's no service that where you can call and go, "My friend is acting a bit weird. We think, you know, he might need medication or something." There's nothing in place for that. So what I was going to talk about it later, but what has to happen is it has to come to a head, and something big has to happen before you're kind of hospitalized and dealt with. I've never actually seen one of these. So that did happen in the end, and don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there is something there. There is lots of rubbish. I don't need any of it. Yeah. I'll take a compass. You can always use a compass, like for a map or something. So that was that, and I was medicated, and whoa, hey, haha. And of course the beers at night, for 4 years of this, sleeping quite often over 12 hours at a time. Why do I feel like, I don't know. So on and so forth. And so that's why, what's one major reason I wasn't active on the JFS or even in real life. So that, you know, and I did allude to that in the last episode, but that's the full reason. And now is a few months ago I finished seeing my psychiatrist. I got a new one. They used to rotate quite heavily, and then there was this guy who was around for a while, and his priority was to reduce and get me off medication. Whereas previously I'd just go and they'd say, "Yeah, you're on the same dose, see you in 6 months," this kind of thing. But yeah, things have kind of turned around since then. Far more motivated and actively doing things, and friends and family are all saying, "Oh, you're back to your old self, it's great." And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I quite liked having a very simple life of just right, I'll eventually wake up sometime and then I'll watch YouTube for 10 hours and then I'll go back to bed. It was very simple. But anyway, back to, that's my story, right? It's not, I haven't actually given you much detail as to how it felt. And Psychosis is really funny because it is a personal experience. I think anxiety and depression, people can relate to it, even if they've never had it fully themselves. We've all got a bit anxious, or we've all felt hopelessly sad at times. No sign. It's a nice, interesting build, even though it's that horrible stuff. Yeah, it's good. I like that. And then, as I say, the stigma has kind of eased off, especially for depression and anxiety. It's far more common for people to just admit it and say, "Yeah, I've dealt with this," and there's also, it's relatable too. But the psychotic, as I alluded to before, is that they mightn't even realize that there's anything amiss. It's just suddenly the world makes sense in a different way, and you're compelled, you feel compulsions to deal with it in by doing things that are out of character and don't make sense to normal people. But the person themselves experiencing it doesn't necessarily, because it all makes a new kind of sense, maybe. And I can only talk from my own experience. That you're doing erratic things, but there's reason. No, trust me, it's like, you know what I mean? Whether it be a cosmic spiritual feeling, sense that you have to do such and such or whatever. Or the fears might be irrational, but it all makes sense in some twisted way. And it's quite like, not that I would endorse it for anybody, but it's quite like acid, for me at least. I mean, you can have some amazing experiences, just experiencing reality and the cosmos or whatever, the cosmic energy of reality in a different way than usual. And it can be really eye-opening and an incredible experience. You can have bad trips, and it's kind of the same with Psychosis. Like, it's not all elation. For me, there's a lot of stress that you go under. And there are people out there that have had, whereas I've had episodes lasting a few weeks, and they've been generally kind of elated or whatever. If stressful at times, there are people who have just a pure nightmare, and just can't cope or whatever. And in that case, they probably get admitted to hospital much quicker because they're in pain, mental pain and anguish, But certainly in my case, it needed to come to a breaking point. The first time was the car incident, which got the police, and then the second time involved police as well. But that was more. I'm certainly not going to tell you that story. But that was more actually thought out on my behalf, in an unconscious-y way. I didn't make a conscious decision to do something. It just evolved, and I found myself at the police station, and they took me very seriously because of, like, I wasn't threatening or anything. It was all fine, but you know, it does tend to be, this breaking point does tend to, the person has to get to a point where they're harming themselves or others, or going through dangerous erratic behavior or law breaking, and it has to be extreme for people to go, oh, hold on, that person needs to be hospitalized, dealt with, and, you know, medicated. And the medication is, as I said before, initially it's a lot of sedation, because as far as I'm aware, anti-psychotics won't kick in for quite a while. It takes a while for them before they can have any effect. So I think people the doctors would tend to sedate somebody for a couple of weeks, or maybe just a week or something, whatever it takes, I suppose, for them to stay calm, and for the antipsychotics to start kicking in, and so on. That's how they do it, I think. And antipsychotics generally, I think they block dopamine, and, you know, in my case, I've been on them, or I was on them for 4 years, I guess, and not really living at all as a result. But I mean, in my case, I'm very lucky in that it's episodic, and I know the triggers. So as long as I stay away from the hallucinogens, the joints, and especially if I'm kind of emotionally vulnerable or stressed or something, I should be okay, you know. Yeah, so I mean, that's my story. I don't mind sharing it. Maybe it will help someone out there. I think it's actually quite important to come out as someone who has experienced cannabis-induced psychosis, because, as I say, everyone thinks cannabis is the greatest thing since sliced bread these days, and that's not. And, you know, I've seen people argue on Facebook and stuff. It's absolutely harmless, and all it does is give you the munchies, make you laugh, and make you sleep better. And nope, there are cases where it's not cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that this will help anyone. Maybe it'll just help people be a bit more open and honest about their own mental health, which I think can't be a bad thing. And like, if you want, I'd nearly watch that first clip again, because I think the perspective that it came from, I just went off in a random direction when I should be heading home, but the perspective that it came from was interesting in that I'd been through the episode, I was being medicated, but I wasn't fully over it. There was still an element enough there, which gave a unique perspective, because I was still in touch with the experience. So I just, having watched it the other day, I was surprised that I kind of articulated the sensation that I was going through, you know, through what was on the screen and so on. But yeah, so that's it. I have no advice or telephone numbers or anything for people out there who know someone who might be experiencing it, or even might have a sense that they are themselves. I really can't help you, because, as I say, it's a very difficult condition, not to diagnose as such, but it needs to come to a head where, oh my goodness, did you know, so and so did such and such a thing. It was really dangerous, and we fear for their safety and our safety, or whatever it is. It has to get to that level before anyone's really called, you know. And it is unfortunate that way, but that is the way it is. And I suppose the only key is to know if you are that way inclined or whatever. Just know your triggers, yeah, maybe see someone professionally. That last time it happened to me, I did have a psychotherapist from before, but I hadn't seen her in ages, and by the time I made the appointment to go and see her, it was kind of too late. You know, she had ideas of what could be done to maybe assist in it, but it was basically too late. It was too far gone, so that was a shame, but yeah. Anyway, that's another long one, and I hope you didn't mind or took something from it, and if you are still watching, thanks for just being a pair of ears, I guess. Yeah, if you experience any, well, everyone has some sort of mental health issues, but hopefully you can feel like you can talk to somebody about it just from watching this, because I know it can be difficult to even admit to people, especially publicly, that you might have been through something like that, but it's probably a good thing to do, you know. And if some people are going to judge you badly for it or treat you strangely because of it, well, you know, the usual cliche, maybe you're better off without them or something. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.